Don and Ed wanted to do another record themselves, so be it. Dave and I never had a conversation about him quitting Van Halen. I never wanted Dave to leave that band, ever, and he keeps really reinforcing that. Once that movie thing really got going in early 1985, his head blew up, and he wanted to be a movie star. Once he started with the whole movie thing, that's when he and I didn't collaborate as much. That became his dream. So now, this is what's really interesting, because then Ted goes on to produce Eatman's Smile. Again, this is all well written by Greg. Greg did a great job here, and he's just working what Ted gave him, but our criticism is not of Greg, but of Ted. He says here, I really don't remember who told me about the Van Halen split. Okay, wait a second. Hold on. You are Van Halen's producer from day one. You are the high-level record executive at Warner Brothers Records, and you don't know how you found out that Van Halen split? I don't understand that. And then this is where it really gets murky. Now, he had produced Sammy's album from 1984, VOA. And he was doing pre-production on Sam's album in June of 1985. And then he said, Sam said he heard about Dave leaving Van Halen from him, Ted. He said, and this is a quote from Ted, I don't remember saying it to Sammy. But if I did, I only mentioned it in passing because it had nothing to do with why I called him. I can say that with certainty because here's the absolute unvarnished truth. I never, ever would have wanted Sammy or any other singer to join Van Halen in 1985. I wanted Dave in that band, period. And I wanted Sammy on his own because he had built some solid momentum on his last record, and I was looking forward to helping him take it to the next big step forward in his career. This is where it gets really weird. Then Ted starts saying he wanted Sammy to do 60s style R&B songs. Now, Sammy just came off VOA with the big single I Can't Drive 55, and he wants him to go back and do 60s R&B songs, and he wanted to hire the Tower of Power horns to back him, and he says, my gut feeling was that they'd all come to their senses soon, and that Dave and Ed would patch things up. But I was wrong. Sammy was joining Van Halen, and I was not happy. Then he said what was also wild. Now, you got to remember that Sammy was on Geffen Records. So he was a Geffen Records artist. You have to realize Sammy can't just go over to 5150, join Van Halen, and then go off his merry way. He signed to a contract as a solo artist for Geffen. Van Halen signed to Warner Brothers. So there had to be some serious negotiations going on between David Geffen at Geffen and Mo Austin at Warner Brothers. And he said for some weeks it wasn't clear whether Sammy was going to be able to join Van Halen because they had to work out a deal. And he says, but he says he can't blame Sammy for wanting to join Van Halen. But he said this very interesting comment here about Sam. He said, what Sammy did isn't much different than the guy who puts the moves on a wife who has recently separated from her husband. That kind of outside influence, when feelings are raw and unsettled, just kills the chances for any reconciliation. I thought that was a very powerful statement. And he said if Ed hadn't connected with Sammy through Claudio, which is the Lamborghini or Ferrari dealer, Dave would have returned to the fold and Van Halen would have eventually repaired itself. But now with Sammy in the picture, both sides dug their heels in. Now, I really don't believe this whole fairy tale about Ed getting Sammy's number from Claudio, his car guy, and then he calls
here we go.
I don't believe it.
Here we go.
I don't believe it. I don't believe it.
I think you need to make a new bumper for the show. It's conspiracy time.
And we're on to a new episode of Conspiracy Time.
Welcome to another episode of Van Halen Conspiracy.
I'm your host, David Cribley. Yes, I tell you though, it really doesn't ring well to me because it sounds like someone made it up for a press release. I really believe that Sammy found out about Dave vacating Van Halen when Ted called him up talking about pre-production on the album. I think Ted was totally, calling Sam. But I think Sam activated on that. I really, really do. I think because Sam came in there and he came in, all of a sudden, Sam moves into the band. His manager takes over Van Halen. Van Halen goes out on tour and they're playing Sammy Hagar songs and hardly any Van Halen songs. I mean, somehow there's some shystering going on there. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but let me tell you. I mean, the thing is, what did Ted think Van Halen was going to do? Like, were they going to sit around and wait for Dave? I mean, that's what Ted wanted.
I know.
Well, they'll all come around.
Yeah, I know.
And Ed has always said, listen, I just want to play. I just want to play in the band, right? They were figuring out what to do. You know, at one point, a bunch of lead singers, you know, singing one song each on the album was up for grabs. And so here comes Sammy. They meet. They get along. And so Ed's like, you know what? I just want someone who wants to be in a band. And Sam, we like Sam. He wants to be in the band.
Right.
Dave does not want to be in the band, or at least Ed perceives that Dave doesn't want to be in the band.
Right.
Dave might tell you a different story.
Uh-huh.
But Ed, at that point in his life, ironically, Ed was not waiting around for things to happen.
Right.
So to Ted's point, did Sam swoop in there? Of course he did.
Right.
Now I'm not going to get into, did he find out from talking to Claudio or did he find out from talking to Ted? I don't know, nor do I really care. We have said this before on the show. Sam is not an idiot.
No.
Sam is a very smart guy.
He's a cookie.
He saw what was going on.
Yeah.
I know you love those cookies. He is a smart cookie. Very smart cookie.
That's right.
Sam saw what was going on.
Yeah.
I'm not saying he took advantage of the situation, but look, this is his ticket to the big time.
Right.
He's not going to mess it up.
Right.
He goes, there's magic, there's chemistry.
Right.
Yeah, the record company's got to work it out. But this is Sam's big chance.
Right.
He's not going to blow it. Dave's out. Somebody's got to be in.
Yeah.
Why not Sam?
Right.
Bam.
Right. Absolutely. So now this is the interesting part. I had no idea about this, and this is, in my opinion, the big reveal in the book. He says Sammy came to Ted, along with Ed Loeffler, who was his manager and now Van Halen's manager, asking him to produce the Van Halen record. Ted Templeman said, no, I don't want to do it. And Sam and Ed Loeffler were shocked. He said, I have a deep attachment to the band that I had signed. Without Dave, the band wasn't going to feel right to me with a different singer. Van Halen's sound and feel was going to change. I always wanted that original Van Halen vibe. It wasn't so much a question of whether or not I wanted Sammy to join Van Halen because I didn't want any other singer in that band. When Sam pushed Ted on that issue, Ted apparently, according to Ted, said to his face, look, I just can't do it. It's not personal, but without Dave, it's not Van Halen to me. And Ed Loeffler lost it. And he said, this is my big chance. And he got really mad, and Ted Templeman said, I am not going to do it, period. And now also, which is interesting, I thought that you figure Warner Brothers, as a company, would want Ted to helm this changeover here because Ted knows the band. Ted's had monstrous successful past with the band. He's the guy to oversee this smooth transition. But apparently that meeting left in a huff. It was in a Mexican restaurant, he said, and Ed Loeffler said that Ted Templeman broke Sammy's heart when he told him about the R&B singer idea and that he was insulted. He says, I also told Loeffler and Sammy that I just couldn't get past the fact that they'd be calling themselves Van Halen without Dave in the band. Ed said, it's my name and my brother's name. And Sammy Hagar, apparently, even after that horrible meeting, he continued to pursue Ted. And then Ted came back with a little chip there, and he says, I tell you what, I'll do it if they change the band name. Then I could live with it. I was thinking that maybe with Sammy in the mix, the vibe at 5150 wouldn't be so dark. Because he loved working with Sammy. He says he has full of energy and optimism and incredible vocal expertise. And his final offer was change the name of the band and I'm on board. I wasn't trying to be difficult, he said, but it's how I felt. He wanted them to call it Van Hagar, but Ed was indignant. And he said, hey, it's my name. And it wasn't Van Halen. He said the original Van Halen to me represented something singular and unique. He says, Van Halen isn't Van Halen to me without Ed and Dave. In my mind, they were like Led Zeppelin, or the Rolling Stones, or the Beatles, or John and Paul, Keith and Mick, Plant and Page. So then this caused him to go work on Eat 'Em and Smile, and then it looked like that Ted had chosen Dave over Van Halen. He says a lot of people have that perspective, but that was not true. He kept going over that in the book over and over. This is not true, that David Lee Roth was nowhere near a recording studio at that time. He says, I can only imagine how those guys must have felt, meaning Van Halen. First, Dave quits. Then I turned them down. I suspect Ed in particular felt betrayed and abandoned. He said he was focusing on a solo career for Dave, and he said, what drives me crazy is that Ed seems to have lost sight of the fact that Dave and I did the EP because we just wanted to work. And on multiple occasions, we go up to 5150, and we get nothing done. I still don't think Ed has the faintest inkling that our frustrations during the making of 1984 were a big part of why Dave and I did the EP. There's proof right there. And he said before that he was trying to wake Ed up. He obviously caused the breakup, in my opinion. That caused the breakup. He says it's kind of crazy to think of at this point that the Van Halen breakup saga as a misunderstanding of our motivations, but that's what happened. Now, he said he had resentment coming from Ed and Al, and that Ted Templeman was talking about putting together a band for Dave, and he had pitched him Steve Stevens from Billy Idol's band, who apparently had signed a record deal with Warner Brothers for the Atomic Playboys album. I remember that. And then Billy Sheehan was the first to join Dave's band, and he had suggested Steve Vai. And they were, at the time, working on a soundtrack to the movie Crazy from the Heat, and which I always thought was kind of strange, because what the hell are they going to call the second album Crazy from the Heat? It's kind of weird. But he said, right? That would have been weird. So, but he had put the band together. Then they got Greg Bissonette in there without even Ted being involved with that, but he knew that since he worked for Maynard Ferguson, that he would be good, and he said the band was killer, and he was blown away by the musicianship. And he said with Eat 'Em and Smile, and I thought this was a perfect description of Eat 'Em and Smile. He says, my perspective was to do Diver Down meets Fair Warning. I thought that was the best description of Eat 'Em and Smile. What do you think?
I never thought of it that way.
Yeah, if you think about it real closely, that's exactly what Eat 'Em and Smile is. It's like Fair Warning mixed with Diver Down.
Well, I don't know. I certainly can see the comparison.
Do you want me to break it down for you?
No, I don't. Save it for another podcast. I see the Diver Down comparison because there's some cover songs there.
Right.
I mean, but the thing about Diver Down is there are some hard-rocking songs on Diver Down.
Yes, there are.
You know, and I really don't see Eat 'Em and Smile as this serious matter, almost depressing.
No, but there's some dark songs on there. Elephant
Gun, the music
Bump and Grind.
might be dark. I don't know that I see. Well, lyrically, maybe. I don't know.
Shy Boy.
I would say, here's what I would say. I would say it's Diver Down like with a side of Fair Warning. That's what I would say. I mean, we've talked about this album before. I mean, love the album. There's hard-rocking songs. It's certainly truer to the Van Halen spirit than 5150 was.
Mm-hmm.
I think, my opinion, some other people might disagree, and they can make a case for that. You're right. It's a very interesting time, and it's interesting to me that Ted was so surprised that, like, for instance, Sammy was so put off about his suggestion for going in an R&B direction.
Yeah.
I'm not saying Sam couldn't have pulled it off. He probably could have, and it would have been interesting. But Sam was certainly on a good trajectory at Geffen. They were his best-selling albums of his career at that time. So, I mean, why mess with a winning formula?
Right.
I'm not saying Sam's albums were the best.
Right.
His Meat and Potatoes were hard-rocking songs.
Right.
So he probably should have stayed in that direction. It was very interesting that they practically begged Ted to produce that album.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not a surprise. The thing about Ed, though, Ed probably, I don't know if he cared as much that Ted didn't produce the album because he was such at odds with him during 1984.
That's what I didn't understand.
He had Don in his corner.
Yeah.
He probably felt, I got Don, that's all I need. I really don't need Ted anymore.
Yeah, I know, but it's interesting why they would even ask Ted to do it. I thought that was strange. Keep in mind, the deal that Warner Brothers had to make with Geffen in regards to getting Sam was Geffen got part of the profits for 5150. They also got another solo album from Sam, which was I Never Said Goodbye. They also got Sam to agree to do a greatest hits with a couple new songs. Like, there was a lot of dealings to get Sam into that band. It was a big ordeal, that's for sure.
Yes, yeah, no, it was.